Welcome to another episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. I am your host, Mitch Lafon, and joining me this week, Joe Perry of Aerosmith. Doesn't get much better than that. He, of course, is plugging his new album, an EP called Merry Christmas, or Joe Perry's Merry Christmas, and, of course, his tell-all book, Rocks My Life In and Out of Aerosmith. And I couldn't think of anybody better to join me as my co-host than MATT STARR. Good day, sir.
Hey there, how are you?
Good. Now, of course, Matt, you have played drums on probably one of the best rock albums this year, Ace Frehley's Space Invader. You are in Burning Rain with Doug Aldrich, currently on tour. Your last album, Epic Obsession, which I have actually right in front of me, is fantastic.
Thank you.
If anybody hasn't picked it up, first of all, shame on you. And second of all, go to Amazon or iTunes or wherever you go, pick it up now. And you've also got another gig, which is kind of exciting. You are in Mr. Big with, of course, Billy Sheehan, one of the greatest bass players ever, and Eric Martin, one of the greatest vocalists ever. You're not really having a bad life, are you?
No, things are good. And Paul Gilbert, one of the greatest guitar players. And what is so cool is Pat Torpey, one of the world's greatest drummers. And Pat's out on the road, too. So at this point, technically, I am touring, filling in as touring drummer, and it's been a lot of fun. I mean, those guys are, super blessed to hang out with. Obviously, incredibly talented. Their fans are amazing. We just spent 2 months in Europe and Japan, and that was awesome. We got to play Budokan, which for me, as a Kiss, Cheap Trick, and an everything else fan, that was amazing. But the cool thing on the tour was that Pat is on tour, so usually when I get a gig and I'm filling in for somebody, they're not there. But on this, I was hanging out with Mr. Big, the whole band, and me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where usually I'm the new guy, and then there's like a dynamic, and everyone's getting to know each other. Where this is, they were just up and rolling, and then I just kind of joined in. So it was really super cool, and Pat and I got along great. We had a blast, and I think we were driving everybody nuts talking about John Bonham and snare drums for most of the tour.
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, what a great thing. And of course, the time with Ace Frehley, Kiss geeks need to know, how was it recording with Ace? And wow, what an album, Space Invader.
Yeah, I'm really super proud of that record. As a professionally, it's great, and as a Kiss fan, which I am, I think it comes in right after his '78 record. It was really cool working with him. He the thing that I was struck by was just the pace. We were in there about 10 hours a day, so we were working hard, but he just takes his time. He was super methodical. He had his legal pad with all his notes and all his lyrics and all his ideas, and we would just pretty much do like about a song a day, but it was just great working with him. And it was Chris Wise from the Cult came in and played bass on a like 3 of the days that we were in there, but the majority of it was just he and I, and that's what he had said he did when he recorded all his other records with Anton. He goes, no, it's just me and Anton, and we would just, he liked recording just with the drums, and then either he would add bass himself or he'd bring, maybe Will Lee or somebody else in. Yeah. But, yeah, it was really cool, and just to watch the songs kind of take form, because a lot of times we'd start with, to me, it was just a series of riffs, and he'd arrange them, and we'd play it, and you knew where the chorus was and where the verse was, but I didn't know what the lyrics were. I didn't know. Sometimes I knew a title, but, and then just as it went along, he just kept adding, chipping away, and then at the end, like Space Invader, man, that he completely rearranged that tune and then came up with that kind of almost spoken rap kind of verse, and that was like literally in the last week where it was getting mixed, and he came up with that, and it was like, killer, just so cool.
Yeah, really. And speaking of cool, by the way, I just want to thank you personally, because you and the Burning Rain guys were on this Kiss tribute I did last year that benefited a palliative care home where my wife's father passed away. And, it's just important for me to say thank you publicly so that people know that I truly appreciate what you guys did. And, the album was called The World with Heroes, and the song you guys did was Calling Dr. Love.
Yeah.
What a smoking version, by the way. I mean, anything Doug Aldrich touches, you know it's just going to sound great guitar-wise. And
Mhm.
so, you know, so thank you for that. And, you know, for those of you who haven't checked it out, please do. And, of course, Doug has this Revolution Saints project coming out with Dean Castronovo,
Oh, yeah.
right? And, of course, Jack Blade. So look forward to that. Why don't we get into this Joe Perry interview? Now, of course, when I mentioned Joe Perry to you, you said, yeah, I got to be part of this. Was he a big influence on you, or was Aerosmith themselves just a big influence on you growing up?
Yeah, you know, for me, the three records that I spent the most time with growing up was Kiss Alive, Cheap Trick It Live at Budokan, and Aerosmith Live Bootleg.
Right.
And I had an older cousin who I thought was so cool, and he still is a super cool guy. And he said, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas? I'm going to get you a record." And I said, "Aerosmith." And I thought Aerosmith was a guy. His first name was Arrow, and his last name was Smith.
Yeah.
So he gets me this record, and it's live bootleg. You know, anyone that's not familiar with the cover, it's meant to look like a bootleg. So it's got a stamp on it, and then on the back, it's got a coffee stain. So when I got the record, I opened it, and then at the end of Christmas Day, I look at the record, and there's a coffee stain. I'm like, "What's my mother?" I go, "Did Grandma put her coffee on this record? Like, what the fuck?" You know, she's like, "No, I don't think so." And then I went to the record store the next day and looked, and I go, "Oh, they all have it." So it took me about 3 or 4 years to get into that record because Aerosmith live, especially in the 70s, was a completely different experience. Steven Tyler's making up lyrics on the fly. Stuff is just so loose. And that record is one of my favorite records of all time. And what I used to do is one day, one of the speakers came disconnected on my little portable stereo. And I heard the record in a way I'd never heard it before. I was just listening to Joe Perry's The Right Speaker. And so I would do that. I would unplug the right speaker, unplug the left. And so I just love listening to, especially the outro on Sweet Emotion, where he gets this feedback that it's just incredible. It sounds like the whole guitar is melting. And then the whole last verse of Toys in the Attic, he's not playing. It's just feeding back. I don't know what he's doing, but the guitar is just sitting there, and it just keeps feeding back. And then when the chorus comes, he jumps back in. So yeah, I was absolutely just blown away by that record. And yeah, I mean, Joe's just a badass and one of the coolest looking guys, one of the best noses in the history
Of rock.
Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing was when I would do that with the speakers, I didn't know who it was, but I figured that the attitude that I heard in the playing, it sounded like the guy with the nose and the blonde streak in his hair. That just sounded like that. This guy looks like that, and
That guy looks rock and roll.
yeah, I just happened to be right. So.
By the way, that album has probably the best version of Sick as a Dog. But the other funny thing, sort of in your vein of stories, I remember going to the record store, a place called Discus at Fairview Point Claire, and I went in and I said, "Do you have the new Aerosmith live bootleg?" And the guy looked at me very seriously and said, "We don't sell bootlegs here."
Ha
And I was like, no, it's... And I just went, there's no point in trying to explain this. And I walked out, and so I wasn't able to get it that day. But, of course, I got it now, and, you know, Mother Popcorn.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
It's amazing. And I actually have, I think at this time I have 4 copies of that record on vinyl. There was 2 different covers, which I discovered later. So I have both copies, different covers. Then I have a white label promo of one of the covers, and then I have a Japanese pressing of another one, all with the poster insert for you record nerds, because there's that killer fold-out poster inside.
Oh, great. The great old days when we used to get posters in all our albums, from Kiss to Aerosmith to pretty much anybody. Oh, well, hey. Mm-hmm. You know, but now we got digital downloads, so you get it the same day, and if your computer breaks, you have no record collection left. So isn't that great?
Yeah, how about it? Well, you can at least walk down the street with your music in your back pocket. I think that I'm grateful that when I go for a run, I don't have to carry a turntable on my shoulder. I can just take my iPod Shuffle and clip it to my sweatshirt. But yeah, there are modern conveniences are cool, but there's nothing like the good old, you know, just the sound of vinyl is awesome.
Yeah, the good old sound of vinyl. Am course, the good old sound of live shows. You know, folks remember Burning Rain with Matt and of course Doug and Keith. Who am I missing in that band?
Sean McNabb on bass.
Of course, Sean.
Yep.
How can you forget Sean? Out on the road right now, so check that out. But why don't we sit back and listen to my wonderful half-hour, 30 minutes
nice.
With the one, the only Joe Perry. Here he is. I don't hear anything.
Um,
Yeah?
how is it now?
You sound perfectly fine to me.
Okay, let's rock.
Let's rock. So, let's talk, of course, about the Merry Christmas EP, and then I have some old school questions for you as well. What sort of inspired you to put together a Christmas album?
Well, a couple of things. Over the years, all the past, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years, the band's been together.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought about, I mean, we've always talked about, doing certain kinds of albums, and
Right.
we talked about doing a blues album, we talked about this album, that album, and talked about a Christmas album, and we just never got around to doing it. And it was like one of those things we just never got around to doing. We did manage to get a blues album done, Harkin on Bobo, but the Christmas thing never came together. And I had a friend. I'm not home now, so I'm not sure if he sent one. But every year he's a musicologist. He knows music from way back, and there's all these different Christmas albums and Christmas songs, blues songs, and things, and he would send them out to all his friends every year. And I usually have a little stack of the Elvis Christmas and Phil Spector Christmas and this Christmas record and that Christmas record and the compilations, and then you got the standards of Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra and all that. And after a while, I was thinking, it's like, I'd love to play a couple of these songs myself, just to see how they'd come out, and just mostly give the family a chance to listen to some other kind, different takes on those kind of songs. So, long story short, at the end of the book tour, we were out here in LA, and there's a studio about 20 feet from the front door of the house that I'm staying at, and a really good friend of mine I was starting to do some solo work with. We had 4 or 5 songs getting close to being done. And I said, well, why don't we do the Christmas EP? And see, it's really short amount of time. It was only a couple of weeks ago, and but we got some people together, and we're lucky enough to carve some time out of the studio, and at the studio, and we got some of our best friends and favorite players, and laid down the tracks, and we got it done. It was really amazing to get it done in such a short amount of time, and then actually go through the mechanics of getting it online, and then we shot a video for it last week. Actually, 4 or 5 days ago, it got edited, and we're gonna debut it tomorrow. I think it's gonna be coming out, and so that was it. And now and now you got another way to listen to Santa Claus is Coming to Town, or
Run Rudolph.
Or Run Rudolph. So that's pretty much it.
As the guitarist in Aerosmith, though, you've chosen to do a couple of the tracks instrumental and a couple of tracks vocal. Why not either go one way or the other, all instrumental or all vocal?
Well, some of the ones that are instrumental are like, I mean, everybody knows. I mean, when you hear the melody to White Christmas or Silent Night, you kind of know the lyrics, and so you kind of can hum along with it. You hear it in the background, and it's kind of like one of those songs are almost, they're played everywhere. They're in the mall. They're in any place around Christmas time. So I thought that maybe by doing them instrumentally, people could just kind of like hum along with it. And it's again, it's a different take on the songs. I mean, they don't stray too far off the footprint. And then the other ones, they're pretty much rock and roll songs. So if you were to play those instrumentally, I don't think that people would recognize them quite so much as being Christmas songs. So and plus, I just love the way that the lyrics are great, and I just felt like that they needed to be sung.
Yeah.
It's just how it came out, you know. I wanted to go like from one end to the other. I mean, if you listen to Silent Night, it's got that very like quiet, trying evocative, you know, snow falling down and all that, and then you've got Santa Claus is coming down your chimney tonight. I mean, it's a pretty rocking song. So
yeah, it really is.
And Run Run Rudolph, of course, has always been one of my favorite Christmas songs. So I wanted to really pay attention to that one too.
Yeah, you know, we have limited time, so I'm going to ask you just a bunch of questions, and they're going to jump around just a little bit. But I want to start.
Problem.
No, thank you. And I want to start back in 1974 with the "Get Your Wings" album. The song "Train Kept a Rolling" features or includes Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter from the Lou Reed Band, later on Alice Cooper's band. What happened in the studio where you and Brad were not part of the song, or why was there a need to bring somebody else in? And when you found out, were you like, okay, well, that's cool, the song sounds great, or were you upset?
Well, actually, we wanted to get some. I mean, we were still really at the point where we were learning our chops in the studio. I mean, getting how to get a good sound, and those are basically our tracks. Brad and I playing on it. They came in. They showed us some stuff. They played some stuff, and then we and Brad and I went in and played the songs, and some of that stuff is mixed in, but for the most part, it's Brad and I, and I really can't tell you between the two of us which one's which, because we, you know, it was like a shortcut for us, because we were still learning our chops in the studio, like how to get the sounds that we wanted. And I mean, these are songs that we've been playing for going on 4 or 5 years. So it was we all decided we wanted to bring in some guys that's what they did, you know, play in the studio. And I mean, we really didn't like the way we sounded on the first record, and I know it was it bothered me and Brad, and it bothered everybody in the band. About everybody. I mean, Joey didn't like the way his drums sounded. Steven didn't like the way the drums sounded. Steven didn't like the way his voice sounded. I mean, we were neophytes in the studio.
Okay. So
it was kind of like a jump start that helped us out. I mean, Jack he was learning too at that point. He was mainly an engineer, and he had produced some really good stuff. But it was like the 6 of us in there learning how to make an Aerosmith sound. You know, so it was just definitely that. It was those guys helped, showed us some tricks, and it paid off.
So there was no anger involved. There was no chicanery where you showed up one day and went, "Hey, where'd my tracks go?" This was all sort of planned, and it actually inspired or helped the band.
No, we were there for all of it. I mean, I've been in the studio when we first started recording to the very last tracks on Music from Another Dimension. Stephen and I have been behind the board for everything that's recorded, everything that's tracked over the years. I mean, that's why we get production credit on the records, because we're there, helping us produce the records. And the five solo records I've done, that I produced, or at least co-produced 4 of them. So it's all part of it's a whole different thing playing in the studio than it is playing live.
It is. Looking back on Aerosmith's career, there seems to sort of be 2 camps among the fans, and even in terms of the band's sound. From Aerosmith up to Pump, it seems to be a more straightforward rock and roll, dirty, gritty, whatever you want to call it, kind of band. And then from Get a Grip over to Music for Another Dimension, the band seems to have explored, let's say, softer songs or poppier songs, from Amazing to Pink to... what kind of Aerosmith album would you like to make going forward?
Well, I think that we came close with
Music
the last one.
Right, Music from Another Dimension.
Yeah, because I think that was as close as we've come in 20 years to making that kind of a record. When we got the band back together in '84, it was a whole new world. I mean, with videos and that kind of music was, and people always pigeonholed us, as like this ballad band. So the record companies were always pushing for that kind of stuff, and we didn't mind because we were playing. I mean, we were still selling records and filling arenas, and we didn't see anybody leaving after we would play the ballads. And so people knew it. That we were still a rock band, but it was about kind of opening up the different things that we would do. I mean, some of the songs had a kind of a funk kind of vibe to them. Some of them had a country vibe. Some of them had, just a straight up ballad thing. That the ballad we did with Armageddon. I don't want to miss a thing that Diane Warren wrote, and that was our first #1 single. Right. I mean, after all those years, that was when we got the phone call that it went #1. It was like Stephen and I looked at each other and we went, "That's our first #1 single, really, after all these years." And so it kind of opened up. Never wanted to be pigeonholed as just like a hard rock band or a heavy metal band or whatever. I mean, we played songs like Sedona Sunrise, which is probably as close to country as you can get. I mean, for a band like ours. So it was always about experimenting, and I think over the years it hurt us because it made it harder for people to figure out what kind of band we were, especially the record company, because they really love to be able to say, "Okay, we've got a new heavy metal record here. How can you call it heavy metal if it's got Jaded on it?" Yeah. And then on the other hand, I think it helped us because musically we were able to go places that you normally couldn't go. You know what I mean? I don't have to just have that one guitar sound. I can use different guitars for different styles, different get different feelings and that kind of thing. So it's been like a kind of a journey of like learning different musical styles, just to just because we love music, and it all fits in there in that big
magical
heap
place
of rock and roll. You know what I mean? But there are a lot of variations to it. So that's pretty much why we kind of changed with the times a little bit. You know, I think that at that time, if we had been as adamant about playing that rough, raw kind of sound, we might not have had the kind of
success
we had in the 80s and the 90s, you know. But the last record we did, I think that because of the way it got released, the promotion, and it took so long. I mean, it was 10 years between that record,
right,
the Honkin' on Bobo record, and music from another dimension. So, just opening the door and letting everybody throw in, and Brad had some songs on there, and Tom, and everybody. So it was kind of like as close to what an early Aerosmith record would be like. And I think that the only thing about it is that some of the ballads, I don't think were as good as they should have been. You know, if the record company was going to put something out, they should have put out one of the rockers to start it off with.
I agree.
I don't know. There might have been too many songs on the record. I don't know if that makes any difference. You know, these days, people can pick and choose what they want. You know, they can listen to the whole record and go, okay, well, I like this one, and I don't like that one, and so it's a whole different time now. So, speaking about music from another dimension, it's kind of like the record itself. You know, there's people who argue about, well, there's a couple of songs on there that sound like the old Aerosmith, and then there's some other ones that sound like Aerosmith from the 80s, and then there's stuff in there that's like it's sometimes a mixture of the two. So, but I think that we were steering in the right direction on that record for that. I mean, and I think the next one, I'd really like to see us stick to our guns and again, kind of trim it down and get closer to what, say, a record like Rocks was.
Right. Now, I see that we're down to about 6 minutes, and so I just want to come back on one thing you mentioned, the reunion tour, or the reunion in '84. You got to play the Orpheum, you got to do the theaters and stuff, and then you released Done with Mirrors, which to this day I still think is one of the better Aerosmith albums. The Hop, Darkness, I love that album. But the rest of the world doesn't seem to agree with me. It didn't sell so well. Were you disappointed with the reaction, or you were sort of like, well, listen, we've been out of the limelight, we kind of expected? Did it motivate you to do better with Permanent Vacation, or was it like, oh Christ, now what? How? Go ahead.
No, definitely. I think that we were still doing things the way we did when the band broke up, as far as the songwriting and getting in the studio, and we were still getting pretty fucked up around then. And even though we were getting along, I mean, a lot of the dust had settled about the personal stuff, which is basically why the reason that the band broke up, but the reason I left, it was just too much internal tension, amongst the band. But when we had some time apart, and we realized that it was that, and it wasn't that we didn't want to play together anymore, and so we still tried it the same old way, and basically the drugs and the booze just had killed a lot of the creativity. And I know that when we were writing this stuff, there was like something to it that was missing. It was like about an 80% record to me. It sounded to me like the songs were almost there, and we were really hoping that we would get some direction from Ted Templeman, who had just finished, he was doing Van Halen then, and we thought we would get some guidance as a producer from him, and he just it just didn't work out that way. There are certain producers work really well with certain bands, and other bands it just doesn't click. You know what I mean? He's a West Coast guy from LA. I mean, we're a Northeast band. There's a thing that can
affect the sound.
Throw kind of a different light, the way you talk, the way you kind of things that you like. And anyway, we didn't get that what we were hoping we would get, and so that record just. I feel like the songs, when I listen back to it, there's some really good riffs. You named a couple of my favorite songs on there as far as that goes, but I think that they feel like they're about 80% finished, and then we realized we had to kind of move things along. I mean, the record business and the music business and what people were wanting to hear, was a little more polished and a little bit more, I don't know. That's why we brought in some outside writers to help bring us up to speed. And I mean, it was an MTV era, there were so many bands that were coming out with average songs and good videos, and there would be, have huge hits, and but it was mainly driven by the videos, and we had to learn how to make videos, and that kind of thing. So it was a whole new era. So
and Joe. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. They told me to stop at 5:20, so I got 2 more minutes, and I just want to ask you one last question. And by the way, I would love to see My Fist Your Face live at some point. But Permanent Vacation arguably saved the band. It's the one where everything turned around. Just for the record, what does that mean to you? What does that album mean to you? Does it hold a special place, or do you sit there and think, yeah, it was good, and I'm glad fans liked it, but we could have done better?
I don't know. That record, some of the songs on there, I mean, they feel, the record just feels natural to me. And by working with that team up in Vancouver, that really helped turn it around for us, as far as pushing the edge as far as the songwriting goes, and Bruce was really the kind of producer we needed at that point, because we knew we needed to finish the songs, so to speak, that we felt like we were missing. That element was missing from the record before. So I think we had to do Done with Mirrors to get to Permanent Vacation, and some of the songs off that record are still some of the strongest songs we play live, and it just basically gave us a new career. I mean,
it really
no doubt about it.
It's a great album. Now, I see that our time is up, and I'll respect that, but I certainly at some point would like to talk to you about the Joe Perry project and the book, of course.
I'll give you another 5 minutes. I only got a couple more here, so,
okay. Well, as long as nobody gets upset with us, then.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, good. Well, okay, so let's quickly then go back to the book, Rocks My Life, In and Out of Aerosmith. What motivates you at sort of this day and at your age to write this book? Why not just sort of ride into the sunset and sort of let these stories just fade into the background? Because I'm sure that some of the stuff probably will upset one of the other band members. Why not just sort of, what motivated you to write the book?
Well, I think there were a lot of things over the years that have been, whether it was misquoted or taken out of context or just legends that people, consider the truth, about the band and why the band broke up or why I left the band, and more important, some of the stuff that went on after the band got back together and had that second shot at success. I don't think that people just don't know what went on during that time. That was probably some of the most crazed periods in our lives, in our personal lives, because of the way things turned out with the manager that we had. He was great when we all got sober and we had a good team around us and all that. But then, as the success in the band got we were doing something nobody else had done. We were kind of carving our own way at that point, and this guy was just kind of he wasn't growing with the band, and he wouldn't leave us alone. Basically, when you read the book, it becomes pretty apparent, and I think that I wanted people to know just some of what went on then. Obviously there's some other stuff in there that kind of set the record straight, and like you said, it's not, there are certain things that certain people might not like, but I think the truth has to be out there at some point. And I'm thinking about writing the book, and during that I'm going, this is what is going to be the record for my grandkids and my grandkids' grandkids. Or what did this guy do that was, my great grandfather? What really happened, from all that stuff, and the things that have been said about the band, and what the stories are and the different legends for whatever it's worth. I wanted at least the people that cared, right, to know what I really went through from the start, and that was one of the reasons. That was probably the biggest reason I wanted to write the book.
That's actually a great answer, because it is sort of like leaving not just an oral history for your family, but having a written documentation, and that's a very interesting answer. And then I'll just finish then the Joe Perry project. What were your hopes for that? Were you thinking that you could compete with Aerosmith and be bigger than them, or was it just, hey, let's just go have some fun?
Well, as far as like that, bigger, it was all about getting in a van and playing, and not having any guys like arguing in the van like the whole trip, or whatever. It was about just getting it in the van and going and playing every night and rocking out and having a good time, and I just did not care about anything else at that point. I just, I had my own personal things I had to go through during that period, but the band was, the project and the different guys I played with, that was probably what saved me, over the years. Of course, we had some pretty wild times in there. There's no doubt about it, but as far as saving my sanity as far as an artist and a rock and roller, it was about getting out there and having fun, and I never thought that we would be do what Aerosmith did or anything like that.
Okay.
it was really about just getting out there and having fun and playing rock and roll.
And of course, all these years later, when Tom Hamilton stepped away, David Hall came back, and you had a miniature Joe Perry reunion there going on. Joe,
Oh, yeah.
Absolute pleasure. I could do this for the next 2 hours, but I do know that you have other interviews, and I have to be respectful of everybody. So thank you. Absolute pleasure. Thrill of a lifetime for me.
Sure. Well, we'll get together and talk again another time, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
You know, we've got we're looking at going on the road again next year sometime, and I'm not sure if or when we'll do another record, but I'm sure we'll get another chance.
And I look forward to it. I've seen the band at least 15 or 16 times, and that's not enough. So.
Well, that's great to hear. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
All right.
Big thrill.
Well, have a good Christmas.
You too. Thank you.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye. There you have it, folks, my interview with the one, the only Joe Perry of Aerosmith. And of course, you know, Matt, it's sort of silly to say of Aerosmith. I think when you say Joe Perry, I think the whole world knows who the hell he is, right?
Yeah, it's just Joe Perry of planet Earth, you know?
Yeah, I think he's at that extra level. You know, thank you for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to have great co-hosts, and I think at some point we actually need to sit down and do a full MATT STARR interview and get into the whole making of Space Invader, and get into what Burning Rain's up to, and get into your future with Mr. Big, and any other projects you're involved in that I don't know about, or...
That's it. Someone asked me that last night. They go, and who are you playing with? Anyone else? I said, let me think. I don't think so. So yeah, no. At the moment, that is everything that I am up to.
Which is not bad.
Not at all. Not at all. I've been really fortunate to work with just super talented people. You know, and these legendary guys like Ace and Billy Sheehan and Paul Gilbert, or these guys that are legends in the making like Doug, you know. So it's been really cool.
Now, if Joe Perry started up the project again, the Joe Perry project, and gave you a call, would you say yes?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, he's actually, Dan Petrucci is a friend of mine, and Dan's been playing drums with Joe for the last few years. But yeah, hell yeah. And I would insist that we do Bright Light Fright. That would be my only demand.
That's a pretty good one. Actually, during the interview, as you heard, I said to him, I would love to see Aerosmith do My Fist Your Face from the Done With Mirror album. And he was like, yeah, sure. We'll get right on that. But hey.
Well, I'm sure I don't know what that was like for them, you know, commercially. Obviously, it didn't do a whole lot. But that record, man, they are pissed off, but super tight. And those riffs have this that whole record has a darkness to it. Mm-hmm. That it's like, we're back and we're going to do this. They didn't quite have their whole thing together. Obviously, you know, Permanent Vacation was a super successful commercial record, but that Done With Mirrors record, I love that record. And Joey Kramer, man, he does some badass shuffles on that record.
I think it's a great record. The Hop, Darkness, My Fist Your Face. I mean, it really sounds like an Aerosmith record. You know, when they did the reunion, that follow-up album, they made an Aerosmith album. When Kiss did their reunion, you know, nobody knows what they really did. Aerosmith got it right. I really don't know why people piss all over that. I guess, listen, they were competing with Def Leppard and Pyromania. They were competing with Quiet Riot and Mental Health. They were competing with Motley Crue and Shout at the Devil. So it maybe sounded out of place, but had that come out in 1976, people would have loved it. They would have said, bloody classic. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Aerosmith's a really unique band in that they have like three distinct careers, you know, where they have the 70s Aerosmith, then they have the 80s MTV Aerosmith, the rocker thing, and then they have the whole other kind of Diane Warren phase, and then when Steven get on American Idol, that whole thing. And you know, I mean, the Stones, I mean, they had 60s Stones and then 70s. They didn't quite have an 80s. I guess they sort of did, but not to the level that Aerosmith did. It's just it's really amazing, you know.
Well, I mean, listen, the Stones didn't have a whole 80s decade. They sort of had the 80s year with Emotional Rescue, but then they sort of, you know, sputtered all the way to Harlem Shuffle, and then that was it. But yeah, you're right. You know, Anyway, Matt, always a pleasure to speak to you, and I'm glad you could join me for this. Tell folks where they can find you on Twitter and Facebook and wherever else.
Yeah, everything is MATT STARR Music, and STAR has 2 R's. So the website's mattstarmusic.com. On Facebook, MATT STARR Music. Twitter, MATT STARR Music. So yeah, get in touch, and I run all my own pages. I try and get back to everybody, and I love the interaction and being able to connect with people all over the world. And then you actually meet them, and they go, sometimes, so you meet a fan and they'll be like, "Hey, hi, so yeah, it's me, Skip." I go, can you hold up your profile picture? Because sometimes someone will have a certain image. Oh, right, yeah, the dude with the blue background. Yeah. Hey, but it really sincerely, it's super cool, and I love, like I said, staying connected with everybody. So please come and say hi, and look forward to meeting and playing for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just finish with this. When is the next Burning Rain record? Epic Obsession was, I think it's 2 years ago now, 2012, 2013?
Yeah, we are talking about working on it next year. So
good.
Yeah, we're going to, the plan is to get to that, and just a matter of, as it always is with this band, coordinating everybody's schedules, because, everybody's got things that they're doing, but every time we play, we're always like, damn, this is a good band. We got to do more stuff. So yeah, next year for sure.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you, Matt. Always a pleasure. And folks, remember, tune in to One on One on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn. It's everywhere. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Mitch. Bye, guys.
Cheers.